first of all, thank you. It is great to be here, and I'm having a moment here because I don't know where the hell to put my hands. I never sat at a table for a press conference, so excuse me.
The determination, the intensity, that we can beat anybody.
Do it. We keep going. That's what we need to do.
Not only match what we've done in the past, make football bigger than life.
Believe in yourself! Believe in your team!
They are the Dallas Cowboys, America's team.
Here we go!
Well, it's finally here, the season finale of Cowboys Insider. I'm Lindsay Draper, and you're going to love this show because there is a lot of the new head coach, Mike McCarthy. And I'm bringing you the real insiders from DallasCowboys.com to talk about these coaching changes we're seeing here with the staff. We'll go one-on-one with Mike McCarthy, but first, as we kick off our season finale, let's take a look at the introductory press conference as McCarthy made his way around the Star.
Mike McCarthy has confirmed to our own Tom Pelissero that he is taking the job.
One day after announcing Jason Garrett would not return as the head coach, the Cowboys hired former Packers coach Mike McCarthy as his replacement.
One of our primary goals in selecting the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys was to focus on a proven team builder and winner, someone who's got a proven track record of winning not only consistently but at the highest level. In Mike McCarthy, we found a coach who not only checked those boxes, but also has the experience of taking an NFL team to the biggest stage, the Super Bowl, and completing the job. So I do want to introduce you to the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
The Star is so big. I mean, this is an unbelievable facility. But the reality of it is, you don't just see it, you feel it, and that's something that's real for everybody that has a chance to walk through these doors. And I just want to tell you, the importance and the understanding of how to protect and be the steward of this iconic franchise. I'm really looking forward to doing that. The commitment will be unwavering, but I won my first Super Bowl here in North Texas at AT&T Stadium, and I just want to tell you I am anxious and excited to get to work on winning the next Super Bowl for the Dallas Cowboys.
Just getting started here on Cowboys Insider. Coming up next, we sit down and go one-on-one with Mike McCarthy. Let's get inside to his head for his plans for 2020 right after this.
Cowboys Insider is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys, AT&T, and by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass. This segment is brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage.
Welcome back to Cowboys Insider. Our Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com sits down now with head coach Mike McCarthy. Take a look.
Well, hey, Coach, I would say welcome to Dallas, but, it's been a week now. I mean, you said you're going to dive in here. What has been the biggest challenge here this first week? Has it been trying to figure out where to go, like you said, or learning names, or what's been the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge is walking from the Omni to my office. I've made a couple wrong turns, but that's been the biggest challenge. Everything else has really been fun. I mean, it's been awesome. Just have a lot to do. It's the normal process of when you're hired, but so many people have called, so many things, so many people to talk to. So I'm just working through it.
You've talked before about driving into Lambeau Field and seeing the statues and all that. Talk about the balance between building, protecting a legacy of the Packers, the Cowboys, but also knowing that a change is needed, and you have to kind of, go in here and make some of those changes without changing what has, been built.
Well, I mean, the communication and the transparency is very important throughout your time at any organization, and obviously that's what's going on right now as far as every step that we want to take to make sure we're making the right changes if needed, make sure we're emphasizing the right things that if needed, and really, frankly, maybe just adjusting the things that are needed. So that's really the way my mind works, and it's a process that has started, but we have a lot of work to do. I mean, that's why I'm here. I mean, this is part of building a program. The way we do things are going to be different than we're done here before. There's some things that we're going to do that are the same as they did before. So just kind of working through all the intricacy is really what we're focused on.
Along those lines, I know there's going to be some new guys here on this coaching staff, and that's what you're working on here. But how important is it to have a few of those holdovers that kind of know how things were, know how these players were? You know, it's been said you can just change the whole staff, but you do seem like you need some of those guys. Maybe Kellen Moore would be that.
It's the preferred. I mean, you definitely would like to keep as many of the current coaching staff. I think there's definitely there's a lot to gain from that. But in the same breath, it's really how the staff fits together. That'll be the priority, and that is my focus.
Speaking of Kellen Moore, you had some high praise for him the other day. You also said you're not sure what's going to happen with calling plays, but what can an offensive coordinator do? What would a role be, even if he's not calling plays? There's other things he can do, obviously, throughout the week that's important.
Well, definitely. I mean, obviously, if you call it or don't call it, your job description is different. I think it's important if you call plays that you need to be the coach that's installing it in front of the players. So, those are types of things. As I looked at my 13 years in Green Bay, as the play caller, I wasn't doing all the installing. So, as I build the job descriptions here, if you're going to call it, you need to install it. So that's a belief of mine.
Brett Favre said something earlier this week about how the message that maybe you had when you were with, not maybe coaching, but with Joe Montana, and then how you coached a young Brett Favre and then coached Aaron Rodgers, how it can be, it's not so much what you're saying in your message, but how you're delivering it. It's going to be different to how you deliver a message to Dak Prescott.
Well, definitely. I think anytime you have the ability to show an example of what you're trying to get done, and you have, that example is, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana, it definitely brings a heightened credibility to that teaching moment. So I think that's something as coaches you always try to do. But, the fact of the matter, it's, you were there for that instruction and in that performance. So I think it's all just adding credibility and confidence to what you're trying to teach.
I know this week's been focused on a lot of the coaching, but even last year you said you watching the Cowboys, watching all teams, was there a couple of players maybe that stood out that you can maybe pinpoint that maybe you didn't know a lot about, you kind of liked what you saw there, and that you're like, oh, this is somebody I wasn't really familiar with? But
yeah, I think really in fairness to the roster, those are conversations maybe for the next interview. But it's we have a lot of excellent football players here, and really the focus right now is to continue to add to that, through acquisition. And my job is really focus on make sure that we hire the right coaches to make sure the instruction is the way it needs to be done. So, but we have a lot of young guys. I know just talking with the personnel guys, they're excited about the development of it. We haven't had a whole lot going on from medically, so it looks like we're going to have an opportunity to get a lot of these guys back.
And lastly, it's been well documented. You're a Steelers fan. You've coached for the Green Bay Packers. Now coach for the Dallas Cowboys. When you were a young kid drawing this up, could you have done this any better? Oh no, I don't think. If you have dreams, this was not a dream I ever had. That's for sure. But I'm thrilled to death it's happened. So, you always grew up watching the Cowboys because the Cowboys were always on the second game. We'd watch the Steelers in the first game and watch the Dallas Cowboys in the second game. So, those were great years in the 70s and in the early 80s. And once Tony Dorsett came here from the University of Pittsburgh, then I think we all became Dallas Cowboy fans. Maybe it was our second team, but you always knew what was going on in Dallas. Mike, appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next on Insider, Nick Eatman and Rob Phillips of DallasCowboys.com join me right here on the set to talk about first impressions of Mike McCarthy as well as the long list of free agents the Cowboys have. That's next.
This segment was brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage. This segment is brought to you by DraftKings. Play for the biggest prizes in fantasy sports on DraftKings. Use promo code Cowboys.
Welcome back into Cowboys Insider. Season finale continues in the studio here. Told you I'd have insiders for you. Wasn't kidding. Nick Eatman, Rob Phillips of DallasCowboys.com now joining me, and we've got so much to talk about. We saw your interview with Mike McCarthy, and you were both at the press conference. There was, about 200 people there to watch his introductory press conference. Just tell me your impressions of Mike McCarthy, how he's handling everything, and just how he's fitting in at his new home at the Star.
I'm actually thinking about that right now. First thing he said was, I don't know what to do with my hands. You know, and Jerry Madelon, who works with us on things like this, he would tell us exactly how to do that. But really, personality. That's what he did. He showed that he was a little bit nervous too. I mean, he was nervous about that whole situation. You know, walking in, seeing people up there at the catwalk and everybody hanging over the rails and all that. It was interesting. We've never seen anything like that. But he showed kind of the human side of it and how. Yes, he's been at Lambeau, Green Bay, historic franchise, but still the Dallas Cowboys and being the new head coach for the Cowboys was a big deal, and you could tell that it was important to him.
There's a media term for this. He won the press conference.
Sure.
I think he impressed fans. He impressed media in terms of his comfort level in a big stage, even though, like Nick's right, I don't think in Green Bay you got a couple newspapers, and even though it's the Green Bay Packers, it's not this much attention. But I think that's one reason the Cowboys wanted to hire him is not only his experience and success, but he's been, as he said, the steward of a iconic franchise. He understands the burden and the expectations of coaching a team like this. I think he's still getting settled in. We saw him a day later trying to find his office, and he didn't know he was going down the wrong hallway.
Happened.
It really happened. But I think he's getting settled in, and he's getting a quick start on his staff, too.
And a lot of people in that opening press conference were quick to ask, Coach McCarthy, what are you going to do here at this coordinator position? What will you do here? And he said, guys, there's a time and a place. Now is not the time. But what have you both heard as far as big changes that we can expect on his staff? Because it does sound like there are going to be a lot of turnover here.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about it from the coordinator position, it starts there. It looks like there's going to be a new defensive coordinator. Mike Nolan's name's been mentioned a lot. He's coached at just about every team in the league, and he has a lot of experience. If that's what you want, that's certainly what you've got there. The same to be said about John Fossil, the special teams coach. Again, another name that's been linked here. But Rob, I think when you're talking about different faces, different voices, that stuff is important, but I don't think it's going to be a complete turnover. There'll be some holdovers here.
Yeah, there's been reports, and it's not official as of early this week, but Kellen Moore will be back in some role. He was the offensive coordinator last year. We'll see if he's calling plays this year, but obviously the Cowboys were really pleased with what he did in that first-year situation. And, Mike McCarthy is going to be heavily involved with Dak Prescott. I don't think there's any question about that. That's a big reason why he's here. But there's always a little bit of holdover there when a new coach comes in. But it's very important also to kind of get guys you're familiar with. And I think what we're hearing about some of the coaches coming in, it shows the respect level around the league for Mike McCarthy, that guys want to work for him and want to be part of his staff.
The interesting thing is what you said about the play calling. That's one that everyone thinks is going to be a different change. And McCarthy actually said that he expects it to be like he's done in the past, and like he's done in the past is call plays. But no one really cares who the offensive coordinator is. I mean, they care who's calling the plays. They care if they don't run the ball on 4th and 1, who do I blame on this, or who gets the praise? That's what people care about. So, I even asked Coach McCarthy the same thing about if Kellen Moore's not calling the plays, what's his role? Like, what is he doing? And yeah, there's a role for it, but I think at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy's going to be the one calling the play.
All right, we're just getting started here with these two. We will be back right after the break to talk about Dak Prescott, the changes he will have to undergo in his 5th season. Oh, and his contract, too. That's next.
This segment was brought to you by DraftKings. Play for the biggest prizes in fantasy sports on DraftKings. Use promo code Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the Pro Football Hall of Fame, David Baker, the president.
Kurt, good to see you, Kurt.
How are you?
Good to see you.
How are you doing, sir?
Good. Hall of Famer.
Great to see you.
Hall of Famer.
Let the man go.
Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Coach, on behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and all those fans that are watching and all of us who love this game,
You do this.
thank you, Coach,
for all you've done for the game. Thank you for all you're going to do for the game. Thank you for the history that you've made and the lives that you've impacted. Thank you. It's my great honor to tell you that you're going to be the 328th Hall of Famer into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And your legacy is going to be in Canton, Ohio forever. Congratulations, Coach.
Well, congratulations are going all around. Jimmy Johnson inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And guys, Troy Aikman's face said it all. The tears, actually. And it's been nice to see so many players reaching out and just paying their respects.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Troy, he was there. He was part of that whole turnaround. And you know, he was one of the big reasons. But, you know, it started with the, you know, Jerry's first hire for Jimmy Johnson. He knew that he needed somebody in here to help turn this thing around, and Jimmy did an outstanding job. And it doesn't matter how it ended and you know what the situation is surrounding their friendship and relationship. I think it's really good. They were all, you know, they're together in Canton. I think it's fine, but it doesn't matter. He's won 2 Super Bowls. I think that's the same as Bill Parcells and same as a lot of coaches. He's definitely deserving of it.
I had the pleasure of speaking with several former players during that time for a project last year, and to a man, they all said the same thing. He ruled by fear, but he also motivated guys consistently, kept that edge, and managed a lot of personalities, a lot of great players. That's not easy to do, even when you have a great team. And they all loved him, and I'm sure a lot of guys had the same reaction as Troy did.
Yeah, you know, a lot of players will say this. The 1993 NFC Championship game, there's a lot of talk about, are they going to beat the 49ers again? And he calls the radio station up in Randy Galloway and said, we're going to win the game. You can put it in 3-inch headline. We're going to win the football game.
That doesn't happen now.
It doesn't happen now. You can't get through to the hotline and all that stuff. But he got through, and he told them, we're going to win the football game. And what it did, number one, it pissed off Jerry Rice, and the 49ers got them all rattled. But it took the pressure off the players. Just go, put it on me. If we lose, it's on me. Everyone's going to talk about the prediction. They went out there and kicked their butt all over the field again. But he would do that kind of thing. He had a knack for it.
We could talk about Jimmy all day. Big congrats in order, but we're focusing now on the offseason and what this coaching staff is going to put together. They can actually come in and start offseason programs on April 6th because of the new head coach and Mike McCarthy. My big question that if we want to talk about 30 free agents around this building, we're all talking about Dak Prescott. We got a lot of names we could go through, but Dak Prescott's about to have his 4th quarterback coach in his 5 seasons and a new head coach. I can't even express how crucial this offseason is going to be, guys.
Yeah, that is big. I didn't even think about that until you pointed that out. You know, for him, you know, he obviously has to keep getting better. I mean, that's the focus of every year. But I think in this case, I do think a new voice will be better. I think they need to figure out what really works with him. We see in the NFC or the AFC NFC playoff games all these mobile quarterbacks. Is he a mobile quarterback? Are they gonna play him that way? I think the stats are very good that when he runs the football, they're better. They need to figure out not only what to do with him in terms of running, but just what works best for his game.
And Mike McCarthy said, look, Zeke's gonna be a heavy part of this thing. He's in Green Bay, not necessarily a huge rushing attack consistently, but it's a little bit different animal when you've got Zeke. I think with Dak, Brett Favre said it best last week on a Sirius show. He'll find ways to make things that fit Dak's game the best. And it's a West Coast offense that Mike McCarthy's from. Get the ball out quickly. I'm sure there'll be some elements of that. But the great coaches find ways to get the best out of a certain quarterback. And I think he'll look at what Dak has done well and find that and tailor that to his system this year.
This whole long list of free agents I have with me, what tangible changes are we going to see from the 2019 to 2020 season with the new staff? All these names, it's a big question mark. We don't know what kind of personnel that this new staff is going to go for, but what changes do you want to see in the team as a whole?
I'd like to see a little bit more priority with the defensive tackle position. And even safety as well. But you could say, you know, those are 2 positions that they don't look at through the draft a lot. They kind of try to figure out different ways to plug it in. I think that drafting somebody in the middle of that defensive line or even at the safety position, we haven't seen it in so long, but I'd like to see a priority change with those 2 positions.
I think Nick said offensively it's more stable, I think, in terms of the roster right now. Defensively, they've got question marks, you mentioned, Linz, on free agents, all 3 levels of your defense. Takeaways is it for me. They've got to find a way to take the ball away more from opposing offenses, and where Dak and the offense aren't driving 75 yards every time. And as much as he threw the ball last year, more chances for mistakes. They've got to find a way to get shorter fields for the
People
offense.
think that just because you're number one in the offense, that means that you're putting all these yards. Exactly right. If you're having all these long fields all the time, that's why you have to get all these passing yards. Short fields, quick touchdown. Yeah, you don't lead the league in offense, but you can lead the league in record, which would be a nice thing for the Cowboys too.
Guys, it's going to be a busy offseason.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be up here at the Star a lot. Catch them on DallasCowboys.com all offseason long with your news. I'll be back to wrap it up after this.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys Insider was brought to you by AT&T. Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
Well, that does it for the season finale of Insider, but what offseason? We are busy around here at the Star in Frisco. We've got the Senior Bowl next week in Mobile, Alabama, followed by the Combine in Indianapolis, and then, hey, we'll have the draft coming up, and all these new players will be back in here in April. So stick around on DallasCowboys.com. I'll be hanging out there all off-season long. And thank you for tuning in to all season long of Cowboys Insider. I'm Lindsay Draper, and I'll see you in the 2020 season.